Did you know that you can make lasagna a low-carb meal by using zucchini? And did you also know that if you don't prepare the zucchini properly, you could end up with a very watery lasagna? Let me show you how to put that together. Pronto? Allora andiamo a cucinare. Ciao my friends, welcome to my kitchen. This is where I teach you easy recipes for everyday cooking, and today I'm going to teach you how easy it is to make a zucchini parmesan lasagna your family's going to love. So to start, we need some zucchini. And we want to prepare this ahead of time because if you don't do this, you're going to have really watery lasagna. So we want to cut the ends off. And you could use a mandolin if you want, or a vegetable peeler to slice, but I just like to use the knife because I can get nice thick slices because I find that the mandolin doesn't get them thick enough. So we just want to trim the edge just a little so that our zucchini won't roll on us. And now we want to cut the zucchini lengthwise in about 1/4 inch thick slices. And if you have those large zucchini in your garden, this is going to be a perfect recipe for that. Now that the zucchini are cut, we want to get a cookie sheet and we want to lay our zucchini all along our pan. And then we just want to take some salt and we just want to sprinkle both sides just evenly and then turn them over. And just sprinkle a little bit more salt. And what's going to happen is the salt is actually going to draw the moisture out of the zucchini so that it won't be super watery when you are baking it. So we just want to set this aside. This takes about 5 or 10 minutes. And we can get the rest of our ingredients prepped while the water is being pulled out. All right, so while that is taking place, we're gonna start on our filling. So in a saucepan, we wanna add a couple tablespoons of olive oil. Oops. And to that, I have 1 small onion that I've diced. And I'll also wanna add about 3 or 4 cloves of garlic to that. And I want to add just a little bit of salt. And we just want to give that a few minutes to cook. So while that's cooking, I'm going to chop up some mushrooms. I'm making my filling vegetarian, so I am using 1 pound of mushrooms. But if you want to add meat to it, ground chicken, turkey, beef, whatever you want, just get 1 pound of the ground meat of your choice. And we can add that to the onions once they are sauteed for a few minutes. But for right now, I'm just going to chop up my onions in a fine dice. All right, so now I'm going to add my mushrooms, but if you're doing meat, you would add your meat at this point. So while our mushrooms or meat is cooking, we're going to prepare our ricotta cheese filling. And so I have 15 ounces of ricotta cheese here. I like the whole milk. That's just what I prefer. To that, I'm going to add 2 cloves of garlic. Now, if you don't like the garlic, if it's too much, you don't have to add the garlic. I'm adding 1 cup of grated Parmesan cheese. I'm also adding 2 tablespoons of chopped parsley. And then I'm adding some seasonings in here, some onion powder, some salt, and some oregano. And I will have all the measurements written below, as well as 2 eggs. And to that I'm gonna whisk to incorporate. I like using the whisk because it actually gets some air into the cheese, and when you can kind of get it fluffy and aerated like that, I find that the cheese doesn't cook as dense. It just seems a little bit more fluffy. That's something that my grandmother taught me. And actually, if you wanted to use a hand mixer, that would even get it more of the air incorporated in it. Okay, so now we're just going to set this aside and wait until our filling is cooked. Now I'm going to place the mushrooms in a colander, only so that if there's any extra moisture, it won't be in our lasagna, making it all watery. And so now we're going to set that aside. So now that they've been sitting for a few minutes, I'm just going to place them on some paper towel. And we just want to absorb as much of the moisture by patting them and just getting them as dry as possible. Now this is just an extra step that I do. You could make the lasagna just by using the zucchini noodles like this, but I actually like to bread them, so it kind of gives me more of that eggplant parmesan, chicken parmesan flavor that you get with the breaded. So I like to do it that way, but if you are definitely trying to stay for a low carb, you'll probably want to skip this step. But if you choose to do it, this is what I do. We want to start with cracking, I start with about 4 eggs. And I like to use these pans because the zucchini noodles are long, so I don't have to worry about my pan not being long enough. And we just want to break up the eggs. And I'm going to add just about a tablespoon or so of water just to kind of help thin the eggs out a little bit. And then in another pan, I have some panko breadcrumbs. I like to use panko, but if you want to use the regular traditional Italian seasoned breadcrumbs, you can. I'm not going to season this because I think there's enough seasoning in the ricotta and the mushrooms and things that I did. And plus, I am going to add some extra seasoning, my special secret, to give that little extra flavor to it. And I'll share that with you when we get to that point. But in the meantime, we want to add some olive oil in a pan. If you have I don't want to dirty up another pan, so I'm just going to use this one. And you want the oil to be high enough so that when we fry it, there's enough oil in there to fry. So I would say start by at least an even coat of olive oil in your pan. And so we will just start now. We just want to flip, make sure we have egg on both sides, and then place it into our panko. And then using another fork, we want to press and flip. Okay, and once our oil is hot, and if you're not sure if it's hot, you can just throw in a few of the panko crumbs, and if they're sizzling, then you know you've got hot oil. We want to then place and cook until they are golden brown. And so now we will just continue this step until all of the zucchini are cooked. And when they come out, we want to place them on a paper towel so they could absorb any of the excess oil. And we can use the same paper towel that we blotted, that's fine. We don't need fresh new paper towel. All right, so now everything is done. Our components are ready. We have a few new players here. We have some shredded mozzarella that I've cut up, and then I just have a jar of passata sauce. So we are going to put just enough passata to cover the bottom, and that's just going to ensure that it doesn't stick as it cooks. So now we're going to take our zucchini, layer them up here. Okay, and if it's too big, you can just go ahead and cut and save that. All right, then we're gonna add another layer of sauce. And this is just a plain passata. I don't have any seasoning in here because there's plenty of seasoning in all the other things that we did. So that will be fine. And this is whatever you like to do. I'm just gonna sprinkle enough cheese. This is probably gonna be about a half a cup's worth. But again, you can do more. It just depends on the size of your dish that you're using as well. Also, good thing I strained the mushrooms because there was a lot of moisture in. So I'm just gonna add about half of this because I'm gonna make this about 2 layers deep. So I'm just gonna be eyeballing it. And I'm gonna add about half of my ricotta cheese also. Just try to spread that. Don't worry about being perfect because when it all cooks, it'll all be bubbling and it'll all come together. Then for my secret little ingredient that I like to do is just take some dried oregano, and I just like to sprinkle just a little bit, like an even layer of it. And that gives you even more flavoring. All right, now on to the next layer. Because the bottom layer we went this way, we want to remember to go this way. And these we probably will have to cut a little bit shorter. And this is a small piece, so I'm going to put this here, and it's perfect for using up some of the layers on that we cut. And I usually like to use the cut ones in the middle and save the longer ones for the top. So let's see what else we got down here. You just want to kind of press just so everything sets. All right, now the next layer. Some more sauce. And you definitely want to make sure you use one of your deeper pans, baking dishes when you do this, because it will get quite high. Just want to spread that, maybe just a little bit more. Now we're going to add some more of the mozzarella cheese. I'm going to add the rest of that ricotta cheese. Just kind of spread that out as best as you can. Okay. Rest of the mushrooms. Or the ground beef, whatever it is you're using. And now this one will go this way. Let's see, let's fill that up right there. And we just had enough. That was perfect. It doesn't always work out that perfect, but I'm so glad that it did. All right, we want to make sure we press everything, flatten it out, and then we're going to add our final layer of sauce. So now at this point we want to put it, our oven should have been preheated 350 degrees. I'm going to cover this with foil. Oh, that just smells so good. I wish you guys could smell that. I just put some mozzarella cheese on top, and I put the broiler on for about 5 minutes to get nice and golden brown. This is so hot I can't even try it right now. You do need to let it sit for about 5 or 10 minutes so it can kind of settle down, and so when you cut into it, it won't fall apart. But if you love lasagna, you are gonna love this 3-cheese lasagna that I make right over here, and I will check you out in the next video. Until next time, I'm Chef Lucia, and I'll see ya. Ciao.